At present, the healthcare sector is generating immense amounts of data. With so much information, many healthcare systems, clinical practices, and research institutions lack the technical infrastructure, workforce capacity, and training to support full utilization of this data.
I think it all started in 2009 with the HITECH Act. And during that act, the goal was to promote the increase in healthcare data and the adoption of electronic health records. Healthcare data is predominantly being driven by imaging volumes, and imaging volumes saw a huge uptick in the last 2 decades. It's coming from everywhere. There's multiple different vendors. Each one has its own kind of data structure. I think of the healthcare industry as more of a confederation and not really like one single entity. Each institution has its own administrative hierarchy, its own IT teams, its own methodology of doing things. As a physician, we're trained in the physiology of disease. We're not trained to kind of deal with data problems. The number of like brain cycles that you waste on trying to understand what data is in front of you is cycles that could be better spent on trying to figure out what's going on.
While data collection and analysis provides a plethora of useful information, human-generated or managed data can often be difficult to trust, leading to expensive, time-consuming, and at times, inaccurate results.
In my day-to-day practice, it can be difficult to understand what type of image I'm looking at because we're given a thumbnail and a brief description of each image that's in our image viewing software. And so what's happening is that I'm dropped into this environment of several different thumbnails, a bunch of different data that's non-structured, and trying to make sense of it all and figure out like, okay, where am I? And it becomes a problem because now every time that you're introducing this human element of interpretation of how do you make sense of this data, it's an opportunity for error.
With the ability to cut through vast amounts of information, developments in artificial intelligence are applying logic and evidence to the healthcare system.
Artificial intelligence is being used in healthcare today to reimagine how we advance healthcare into the future. And in order for us to do that, we have to reimagine how we use intelligence. And AI is going to be at the forefront and the core in order for us to reimagine healthcare of the future.
Now, innovations in technology and real-time data are helping to solve real-world problems within healthcare intelligence.
So the mission for Enlitic is to transform healthcare by making data accessible to the clinician in real time at the point of care so that they have the insights and information that they need to deliver the best possible treatment plan for a patient. The Curie platform was really designed to be that ecosystem and framework that is being used at some of the largest radiology reading groups in the world so that they can have insights to the data that has the most relevant impact on that patient.
Enlitic's platform features a host of AI-powered applications to read, report, research, inquire, inform, and automatically standardize and simplify healthcare data.
Clinicians and their supporting staff have an enormously complicated job. Every step along the continuum of care is opportunity for there to be some kind of mistake. Each one of these is a task that AI can help with. From the moment a patient enters a hospital, we use natural language processing to read their medical record and summarize it for the things that are most relevant for the point of care. When a radiologist or a clinician opens a medical image, an X-ray, a CT, an MRI, we use computer vision to identify and measure any signs of pathology. The very first thing that Curie does when seeing new healthcare data is apply a series of algorithms that can look at medical images and text and standardize it against a universal language or ontology. What you might call an X-ray chest, I might call a chest X-ray. And while that might seem like a simple difference, that kind of basic ambiguity can cause humans and machines to make all sorts of mistakes every step of the way. You might describe it one way, I might describe it another, but clinically, there is a universal language where we can all be on the same page.
Curie hosts powerful modules that utilize human, artificial, and real-world intelligence to create an evidence-based solution that makes healthcare information more collaborative, adaptable, relevant, and enlightening for medical professionals.
When we look at data and information today, the data that we use when we make an interpretation and diagnosis is primarily in that clinician's head. So they don't really have access to historical insights or real-world data to be able to make the appropriate interpretation or treatment plan for that patient. So if we understand how we can impact that clinical workflow in a platform and a framework that can allow us to impact that clinical workflow, we will start to see downstream capacities, better efficiency, and more focus on the patient rather than non-value added tasks.
Clinicians today recognize that they need AI. Their bigger concern is that they're going to need a lot of AI, and that this AI is going to come from different places that will abide by different properties, different principles, work with different kinds of data. Curie puts all of that into a universal foundation where all of us can be talking about the same tools, the same kinds of outcomes, the same kinds of applications, and surround that with infrastructure that makes it easy for us to collaborate on these same things.
The power of AI is helping to enable data standardization, retrospective and real-time analysis, research, risk mitigation, and workflow simplification for an all-around better experience that impacts the entire continuum of care.
I think the long-term focus, not just of ourselves and not just of AI, but of anybody in healthcare, is to move toward outcomes-based healthcare or value-based healthcare. There's a lot of steps that are necessary, a lot of tooling, a lot of infrastructure that is necessary to eventually get to outcomes-based healthcare.
I believe that AI will help us to solve very serious and significant problems like health inequity, inequality, treatment planning, diagnosis planning, how we actually focus on the patient. But if we start looking at how we're going to use artificial intelligence to do that, we will actually start to make some inroads into transforming healthcare.